You'd be surprised to know that some of the most successful women of our time face challenges just like you and I do.
Hi, I'm Amber.
And I'm Lisa. We're authors of the book Leading Ladies. Discover your God-grown strategy for success.
We invite you to join us in an honest, messy bun conversation about the things we'd rather keep hidden in our lives.
Some of those things can keep us from moving forward in purpose.
So grab a cup of something delicious, kick off your shoes, and hang out with us for the next 30 minutes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mosquito Land because I have some mosquitoes flying around my head. Welcome to another episode of Coffee Chat with Amber and my co-author in crime, Lisa. I'm freshly rolled out of bed.
If the truth be told.
We are on such a season of kind of impromptu living, I think. Maybe that's what we should have called the podcast, Impromptu Living.
I do have a lot of acting. I've done a lot of acting in my life. And something I've always despised is impromptu anything because I rely on being practiced and planned for those moments. I have to make sure my lines are there. I know where I'm walking. I know what I'm picking up. The whole thing. When you say the word impromptu, it sends shivers down my back. And yet, if I'm honest, I have had to learn how to just flow. What do they say?
By the seat of my pants. We could put a title behind your name that says expert at flying by the seat of my pants or expert planner. And I think that's why we complement each other so well, Lisa. It's because I'm the fly by seat of my pants and you are the planner. And that's the beauty of our lives. But we've all had to learn to adjust a little bit to impromptu living. And we have to do that. And it's been interesting in this season because we've had to just adapt to everything that's going on. And it's either a challenge or a struggle. How many? I'd just love to say, if you're listening this morning to the live stream, we'd love for you to drop something in the comments. What are you struggling with? Are you a planner or are you a fly by the seat of your pants person? Also working through our
day-to-day life. If you're like me and Amber, probably there's probably a lot of women like this. You cram as much as you possibly can into your day-to-day life. While it sounds really nice to say, just be balanced, pick one large project at a time. We don't live that way.
No,
so there's daily life that is already keeping life full to the brim, right? And then you have the unexpected, the unimaginable, the things that come at you from different directions. And you have to figure out what to do with those on top of juggling the everyday maxed out capacity.
You also have health things thrown into the mix. I know a lot of people deal with health and relational things that get thrown into the mix, like people unexpectedly are going through rough, rocky relationships, maybe some of them in separation and divorce, unexpected, a lot of struggle that comes through. And it's especially hard when you have purpose thrown in the mix. And you don't want to say purpose thrown in the mix. That's what you feel like you're supposed to be called to do. And Lisa, I know that in the middle of the summer, you were diagnosed with shingles.
Oh, yes, of course. You need one more diagnosis at all times. So
that is an amazing impromptu.
It was quite an experience too, because it was in the midst of, once again, living life. Everybody says you should always leave a margin. People with wisdom leave a margin. You leave a margin of time to get where you were planning to go. You leave a margin in your bank account in case there's emergencies, right? The week that I came down with shingles, the week before I was not feeling well, I have a tendency to tolerate a lot more discomfort than most people because I don't feel well a lot. I've just been that way all my life. And I don't always know how bad a situation is. And the week before, I had lived life maxed out. I have a show I'm involved in. I'd gone and worked backstage, and I really wasn't having symptoms then. I don't think I was symptomatic then, but let's just say the week before was maxed out. I'm watching my grandbabies, I'm doing everything I needed to do. And then all of a sudden, a few days, I start not feeling so great. And I just push it off and I take Tylenol and ibuprofen. And by Monday, I'm being told by a physician, you're going to have to go to the hospital. And that meant everything that was already packed for the next week. And I had appointments for my mom, two physician's appointments. For those that don't know, my mom is in a rehab facility. She is needing full-time nursing, long-term care, and I'm the one that usually meets her at appointments. I had to call in the troops to help cover that for me as I'm laying in the bed, IVs in both arms. I wasn't able to help with my grandbabies, which put my kids in a bind. It was an insane time. And really, all I could do in that moment was lay my behind in the hospital bed and try to concentrate on getting better. That was all.
I'm going to do a short PSA for the shingles vaccine right here. Get your shingles vaccine.
I know we have a lot of strong feelings concerning immunizations and vaccines, and I get it. I'm a person who doesn't even take a flu shot, and I haven't. I've had every form of flu there was. Thank goodness, as an adult, it does not affect me like it did when I was younger. And I have autoimmune disorders. Can I tell you, I was on my way to get the vaccine for 3 months before I ever got it. I was like, I'm going to get the vaccine. I promise you, as soon as my time is up here, I was supposed to wait 2 to 3 months. I'm getting the vaccine.
And I think chaos happens in those moments because number one, you're beating yourself up because you knew you should have done this. But at the same time, you're like, okay, we are in scramble mode because this is ABC. But the part of the miracle in this, you were faced with Ramsay Hunt, which is a paralysis in your face, which was even worse than shingles.
Right. Live with discomfort a lot. And I have learned to just push through. Sometimes it's hard for me to differentiate between just pushing through daily. This is the way I'm going to feel, short of a miracle of God. And what do I do in those situations? And I didn't know till my face was drooping and other people noticed it.
Whoa. Yeah.
That there's a problem. My face was not acting right. It felt numb to me. Like I would go to smile and I knew this side wasn't doing quite what this side was. Yeah. And that's the only way. I was like, okay, I guess you're right. There's a problem.
Yeah. One of the things that I remember in this whole process, because we were actually getting ready for a coffee chat right before when you were in pain, you did the coffee chat, you were in performance mode, which I'm sure that your stage training has taught you to go into suck it up mode, girl.
We tell people that all the time. I battle with that because we tell young performers, don't walk into an audition and say right off the bat, I just want to let you know, disclaimer here, I have a cold or I'm getting over strep throat. We tell them not to do that. We tell them to give their best because in all honesty, those who are qualified judges can tell when you got a little something going on here. And we can also hear the potential of what you can do when you don't have that. I feel like we have to be real careful. I'm not so sure that I always feel a catch in my whole being when we say things like that to people, because it's also asking people to not be authentic with where they're at the moment.
Yeah. I think that's the whole point of what we wanted to do when we started this coffee chat is let's talk about the realness of who we are and not having to be in performance mode, even though we want to talk.
I'm going to let you talk for just a second.
Yes.
My dogs are going ballistic in the backyard and I need to bring them in before the neighbors get them. So I'm just going to put you on mute.
We learn to perform. We learn to adjust. We came into our podcast thinking, okay, we need to dispel some of the myths of people who are on a platform and say, okay, we deal with authentic struggle too. That was how we laid out even Leading Ladies, the book. And we have to see that even in our authentic struggle, there is authentic strength. And that's built up in us And it's so important to realize when we walk through these things, there's a difference between being fake and finding strength.
Exactly. Stacey Sanchez said something in the comments. She says, if you want something done, ask a busy woman. We're good at carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. There's a fine line between allowing yourself to mentally become this martyr where you leave things unsaid and you just push ahead, but there are little nagging thoughts that constantly make you feel like people just don't get it. People really don't have the ability to help you out. And I feel like there's a fine line between becoming a martyr internally and having it affect how we allow the Lord to walk with us through these moments. He doesn't just take those moments away.
Right.
They don't just disappear. Now, I'm not saying he can't, and I'm not saying he doesn't. In my life experience, walking years with autoimmune issues, and in spite of prayer and constant introspection, God, I know you can change this if you want to. I've noticed that what he changes is probably me. And I think there's truth to that comment. I think we stand on our own strength a lot, especially strong women. As women, we have a tendency to put up with or to deal with or to juggle. Innately, we are created to have the capacity of meeting multiple different options at one time. We multitask for the most part. We have to. We came into this world just having to because of the sheer fact that we are female, and our roles in this society, whether it's what God intended for us or not, make us have to face that early on, right? I would say that my personality type is to try to figure it out on my own. I used to listen to sermons and people who say, you don't rely on your own strength, you rely on the strength of the Lord, you seek help. I had to figure out that God had made me a woman that had the ability to think, solve, be resourceful, and he'd given me those gifts with, once again, let's use that word, purpose. There's a reason for us being able to figure out, prioritize, and work through. And relying on his strength. Let's talk about that. What does that really mean? Rely on strength. Does that mean you just sit and allow, I don't know what to do about this situation? God, here it is.
What
does that mean?
My number one. Okay, so I come at this too. God is my strength. The old World War II paintings of the woman who's getting ready and she's saying, we can do it. We can muscle through. And there is that point in me is you don't want to look like a wimpy woman, because we aren't wimpy. We are not wimpy girls. But at the same
time, my muscle tone at this moment says otherwise. Here's my muscle right here.
I know that there are a lot of women. I've seen a lot of women doing CrossFit that have a lot more muscle than some of the guys. But at the same time, like when I think about we can do it, we're made out of dirt, bones break. Where do you go with that? That's where our authentic personhood is, in the dirty dirt and the bones that break. Right. But at the same time, there's a very real God who breathed into us his life, his strength, and he resides, he abides in us and his spirit, and it gives us strength. But a lot of times, stubborn-headed, bullheaded, that can be my downfall because I'm wanting to push through all the time. And God is I'm carrying weight that I wasn't intended to push through myself. Right. So I find myself having to balance that, pushing through, and then I am so freaking tired. I don't want to do anything.
We also have special circumstances. You've been very open, Amber, about your battle with your brain chemistry. Sometimes your brain chemistry takes over and makes you feel stronger than maybe you are. Makes you feel like you can take on the world. And that can be troublesome as well. How do you weed through those moments personally because this is an issue for a lot of us. How do we know when we're supposed to pick it up and carry it, or when maybe we're supposed to let it lie?
I think
one
of the things that I've been doing in my practice of trying to let things go a little bit more. And it's been a struggle because we have experienced a lot of delay this summer, especially with trying to push through all the time as you lose steam. Can we be happy about something that's happening if it's not happening in our desired timeline? And how do we be flexible about that?
Right.
And one of the things that I started to do is be very purposeful in what I can fully commit my body to do. I know what I will do is I want to muscle up. I want to push through. I have to realize, yes, God is in me, but I have to have realistic expectations of the bones and dirt he's given me. So how do I weigh that up? And I walk through seasons where I'm in my hole of a cave, just working. But at the same time, I've had to say to myself, okay, I need to step away. I need to go for a walk, regardless of how I might be feeling in my head.
Right.
I have to tell people your expectation is not realistic.
Right.
I've had to put things on the back burner.
Because you are that woman who pushes through for everyone, project after project. They come to see you as someone who is almost superwoman in some ways. I say,
now, what is
practical about this? What can you do practically to help people see I'm not just superwoman? I may be able to push through, but it's not always healthy for me to push through. And sometimes what you're asking of me, because of who you think I am, what's on the exterior, what you're asking me to be is not realistic.
I had to limit the circle of people I dealt with and committed to. I limited that very small, and I refused to take on projects beyond that. But at the same time, I have to honestly say, okay, if these all things need to be done at the same time, something's going to give. The Advanced Writers and Speakers Association conference.
I was trying to get there. I thought maybe my hubby and I could go. That wasn't working out. And then I was just like, okay, maybe I'm not going to make it. Maybe I'm not going to be able to go by myself. And here we are just a few days out, and we're rerouting everything.
Yeah. And reroute and having to do something. And I think this is what I feel about this conference. We're going to just go and have fun. We're just going to go and
that's our road trip. That's kind of who we are anyway, folks. I don't know if you know that about us. We're just here for the laughter.
Watch the videos in my comments. Well, and that's the thing is like, we need to learn to have fun in the middle of chaos.
You have to.
And those moments are precious, and we get so work focused. I can get so aggressive in my struggle to push through. Your personality almost changes when you're pushing through. And I'm like, wait, this is not who I am normally.
And just because you appear from the outside to do it well, for me, I'm real good at that. Resourceful, get it done. It looks real polished when I'm finished with it. But the reality is what it does to me internally sometimes, because I haven't learned to balance, or I've learned to balance. Every once in a while, we just forget what that means.
Yeah.
And we just plow through life.
Can we learn to take joy in just the everyday and know that struggle happens? It's inevitable. So laughter and letting go, I think letting go and laughter for me is key, and going with the flow a little bit more. And I do that naturally. I go with the flow, and then I get really, okay, I got to make something happen. That has to be tempered. I know that has to be tempered. But at the same time, it doesn't mean I don't go through those periods of it feels like this and I'm feeling this coming on. What do you struggle with? What is your approach when
Exactly.
you hit struggle? Do you tune out? Do you go a gecko on a branch that's being
Right. I kind of think I had three things just as we've been talking that kind of come up to my mind in the midst of the chaos. First thing you were just addressing, have some fun.
Yes.
If that, or have something that takes you out of the immediate pressure of the chaos. So for you, that's a walk. Sometimes I need to get away, walk away from the desk, walk away from the phone calls. I noticed something you're doing these days that's very new. And that is you put the little focus time on your phone and almost 24. I understand you forget it's on sometimes, but almost 24/7. It doesn't matter what I'm trying to contact Amber about. There's always, I'm driving or answering calls right now. And it's so funny because that's a very new development for Amber. You have fun, find a way to step away from it. Learn how to rest your spirit in the midst of the calamity, the chaos. There's an ability with Jesus to have peace internally in spite of the whirling plates all around you. You can have peace internally in spite of the pace you're running and gunning at. And that is something that has taken years for me to learn how to lean into it. If I can't control the chaos, if I can't put it in its place to help make it better, sometimes I just want to ease it for myself and for others. Recently, I decided that I needed to overhaul a couple of rooms in my house. And I don't mean call in the decorator, taking what I have and making it more streamlined and create a sense of calm for when I'm in the midst of moments. So I know a lot of people may think this is crazy, but we have an old 70s style house that we're living in right now. And the kitchen area is a kitchen with a small nook with a bay window for a little kitchen table, a little in kitchen breakfast nook, so to speak. There's also a dining room, which we have always used for my office / another living area, couch, chair. We come in here to take a nap. We come in here to talk to people. We come in here to read a book when we don't want to be around everyone else. I decided that I was going to just totally turn the nook in the kitchen into a nook with a chair, a space where I can watch the sunrise and sunset. All of the house plants went to the window. It's created this atmosphere where I can just calm down for a minute and start my day. It helps me control that inner chaos and bring peace to it. And my dining room now actually has a dining room table in it. My desk is in the corner, but for me, just doing that has eased some of the tightness in my gut when I'm trying. I can't control everything out there. I can't. But I can control how can I find my way to a more peaceful space right here. And sometimes it doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes a little revamping, a little organizing, so to speak.
I usually have this little place outside that is my little hovel hole. And if I can just keep that place, like you keep it, that is the control element. Like, hey, I can go out here outside. Now, right now with the mosquito population ramping up, that has been an extreme challenge. So I haven't had as much time around the fire pit as I would like. But that's just that my little soulless place as well that I can go to in my home, that I can turn on the fire pit. I can put a marshmallow. One of my things that I really loved in this season of life is I fish for marshmallows. I roast marshmallows. I don't necessarily eat them, but I like to toast them perfectly. Like I like to get that perfect toast. And it takes time to get the perfect toast.
Right.
I get the huge marshmallows. I get the campfire ones, but that has been like, this is the good life. This is me fishing for marshmallows.
Right.
And it's those little things that are like, okay, I can do this. And you really realize in those moments that you slow down, you breathe, you concentrate on toasting a marshmallow.
Right.
And it's fun.
Right.
It's recapturing part of your childhood that we often forget when we have to be adults. And I think that's part of what you do with your crafty yarny stuff.
It's a funny thing though. I love crafting. Anybody who knows me knows I love to make things, but let's just be honest. It's not like I'm this amazing seamstress or I can come up with my own patterns. I
She is
find
amazing
things that
seamstress,
I
let's just say.
love and I say, how can I do that with my skill set? Find a way to do it. Once again, that whole resourceful thing pops in.
Yeah.
And how do you make a meal out of a loaf of bread and 2 eggs? You figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me lately, life, and I will say it all started, it's been a rough couple of years, but it all started when we had to really put the book in place. I had to put those kinds of things on a back shelf. In my mind, I often think, man, it would be nice to just be able to sit and make something. I have to find a way to get back to that because I do believe that God allows those things in our life. Sometimes in our Christian society, we have this mentality that if we aren't throwing everything we've got into evangelizing the gospel, where do we fit in that? If we aren't doing what we see other people doing, then we must not be being a very good steward of our time. I do believe that there are simple things in life that become of comfort. Things like a warm cup of something. There have been days where it was just a warm cup of water. Maybe there was no coffee in the cabinet or tea. Maybe it's as simple as picking up a little loom and knitting something. Maybe it's as simple as I was always an avid reader. For years, I read all the time. The kids would go to bed. I was staying up all night reading a novel because I didn't have any other time to take myself out of the space I was in and go somewhere else. Recently, my younger daughter, who reads all the time, started buying me books that I mentioned I want to read. And I've started reading again. And I'm not saying I didn't read. Reading now for me is purpose, getting ready for interviewing a guest, reading someone's book because I want to give them a review because I want to support them. It starts to become work sometimes.
Yeah.
There are elements of life that I believe God gives us that may seem mundane, but they can help quiet and bring peace to that internal chaos and storm we're feeling.
Sometimes we bring storms into our lives that disturb our peace, and we don't really have to have anything to do with them. What is disturbing your peace right now that really should be put on the back burner? We can fill our feed with political anger or what's happening in the world or the things that are happening that really we don't need to take on our shoulders. Do we really believe God's in control of situations?
Right.
Not that we should live ignorant, I say, but we don't have to emotionally invest. And I find myself getting angry the more I scroll through news. And that was causing me stress that I even didn't need to take on at the moment because I didn't know the whole story. I did not know the whole story. I did not know everything. And you can hear a bunch of stuff and I'm like, oh no, I heard this was going to happen. And this is just coming true. And
it's so hard to turn that off. I look at the feed and I see people that I love. I have known for years. And I see them taking on a tone that is not who they are.
Right.
And my heart is grieved. I almost feel like maybe we should do a segment on how to know when something is not true, how to fact check. How do you Google in a way trying to pull us into a storm that keeps us consumed with something other than what we're really supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah. That's the thing is don't let anybody contribute to your struggle that shouldn't be in the room. I know that we take on also, and we've talked about this before, we take this on the struggle of other people's opinions about us. I have been consumed more over in the high schoolish relationship with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And by the way, football season training has started.
I can't believe my friend Amber is talking about football. This time a year ago, she was not really ramped up yet. I think as the season went along, she started, but this time a year ago, my Amber was not owning any Chiefs gear. I was the only Chiefs gear person.
Yeah. I do know they're in their dorm. They're in their dorm season. I guess it's for a month. They're locked in the dorm of college life. They locked down. I was really nervous because of all this talk about Kansas City Chiefs moving to Kansas. We don't know yet, but I got myself stressed out about that. Why? I don't know. I think I was just trying to be so, yeah. I think that's why my husband doesn't really like the football, because he feels like there's stress invested there that shouldn't be. But I think that they're to take the salt with the sensational feeling of seeing a touchdown. But
Sanchez says, "What's football? Go Yankees." Stacy, for those of us here, I call Missouri misery. Let's be honest. For us here, it's been decades. Now, I have to admit, boy, those boys in blue, those Royals gave us a thrill just a few short years back when we did the World Series, and nothing since. Although this season is starting to stir up my heart again. But when you are raised in a place where your team doesn't win for decades and decades, and then they do. I've always been a Chiefs fan since I was a little girl. And this has been a nice ride. It won't last. It never does.
I was in our favorite sports bar in town where we've gone to for 20 some years. And I took a picture of this team playing baseball and I said, "Is this the Yankees?" to Stacy. And she says, "Sacrilege."
Stacy, she used to do that to me. And she lives in the same state I do with the same professional ball teams. So don't feel bad. Just ignore it. It's petty. She's silly.
So don't take a picture of those people. They're not the Yankees.
It sounds silly and funny, but we do get ourselves caught up in all sorts of little things. For me, do you know something I do? I get caught up in things I can control, word games. I play all the word games. The word games where you spell as many words as you can within a time.
I've just started
game person. There's these games where you untie the knots. Oh, do you know how grand it is to untie a mass of knots?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're just getting silly. We're revealing our raw underbelly now with these games, right?
Yeah, my husband just got me into Text Twist and on the app, and it's one of those. And I didn't really, I've never been really into puzzles, but it's activated my brain to as an editor to spell again.
What's it called again?
Make a text twist. I've never understood people who just stay on their phones and play with puzzles, but it's just a little bit of a brain stimulating my brain with some thought and
not to mention all the games. If you're 50 years old, if you're 60 years old,
you need to play this game.
You need to play this game. The reality is there are things in life that can help us pull away from the extreme. I'm talking about the negative aspects of dwelling on those things that keep us totally rushing and never accomplishing anything. We have to learn how to give them the amount of space they're supposed to have without overindulging to such a point that they start to become part of a problem.
Yes.
And I say, be intentional. I know our time is almost up here, but I think putting some very practical things in place for me, I can be a very practical person. And yes, I love the laughter and I love the distraction, but also sometimes something that helps me is just sitting down with a calendar. And yes, it's already right here in my little magical. Sometimes it helps just to write down the next 7 days on a piece of paper and in black and white, look at the schedule and determine how I'm going to conquer. And am I leaving anything out? Sometimes it's just as simple as that. And there have been times where I've looked at the next 7 days and I've said, this is not realistic. This is not possible. I know I'm letting people down and I'm letting myself down, but I have to honestly back out of this. Being told you're going to the hospital for the next week. It's like, as much as you hate to let people down, you just got to do what you got to do. And there are things in life far more that happen to us than a few days in a hospital trying to get well. There are moments in life that come crashing in that rock us to our core, whether our marriage is dissolved or whether we lose someone we love very much. And those moments literally pick us up out of, even when you have Jesus, it's like a reset moment.
Right.
Flounder in the midst. And I believe God can come in and help us reset. So being intentional about you take on, how much you do, once again, who you let yourself up close to. In the past, your circle had to become much smaller during those moments.
Yeah.
To rally back with the help of the Holy Spirit, right? It's not always easy. So for today, I would love if we could just pray for our listeners today.
And looking at those things that are in our lives, and I think this is a great thing to end in prayer on, is what are the things that we are holding on to that are needless, that are causing our struggle to be more profound? What things do we need to reorganize? What things do we need to let go of for a season? Where are we focusing our energies in? We have a profound need to be flexible and realistic about our days. Lisa, before we go, I'm going to have you close this out in prayer, but can you read that Tozer quote that I sent you?
While it looks like everything is out of control, behind scenes, there is a God who has not surrendered authority.
So in our out of control moments, we know that God has not surrendered authority over our circumstances.
There. He's still actively with us. He's working in our behalf. He's on our side. He never sleeps nor slumbers. Sometimes we get the feeling when we are out of control that he's left us. God doesn't give up. He keeps pursuing us. I believe his desire is always to draw us closer to him.
He's always in the room. That's the thing. We have to realize God's always in the room.
Yeah.
And we have to acknowledge him in our space. So, Lisa, just close us out in prayer, and that would be.
Heavenly Father, I just come before you, and I thank you, Lord, for this time today where we could meet together and have a real conversation about those things in life that create that overwhelmed feeling. I'm grateful that we can share on the airwaves like this. In the computer, we can go places that we can't when we're just sitting in our home. And I'm grateful for the reach that you give your message and your comfort point us to you. It points us to you and the fact that you are our source. When we get caught up in these moments of overwhelm, these moments of run and gun, not being able to discern what we put our hand to next and in what order we get it done, God, I pray that you would break through those difficult moments for us. God, I'm asking you for wisdom. I'm asking you for that flexibility that Amber was speaking of that can help us to rock and roll when we need to. I'm asking you to help us understand realistic expectations. Father, not just for ourselves, but for others. We are all flesh and blood. We all have limitations and big moments of giftings. And I ask you that you would help us to not only be kind and gentle with ourselves, but with those around us. You never know what someone else is going through. And I just thank you, Father, that just like this quote from A.W. Tozer says, you are not willing to surrender. In the midst of our chaos, you are right there. You are always in the room. You are always pursuing us, and you are just a whisper away. I ask that for those that are going through a really tough time right now, God, that you would make it apparent that you are in the room, and that they are not alone, that you're with them and that you have a plan. In Jesus' name, I ask these things. Amen.
I want to just give a quick shout out to our amazing leading lady, Tracy Glass, for anybody who's going through a season of unexpected divorce or separation. She has an amazing new book out called Restored: God's Promises to Beautifully Rebuild You After Divorce or Separation. Get that book. Also, next time we're supposed to have a coffee chat, we are going to be on the road again together.
Once again, if you haven't seen what being on the road does to Amber and I, you're going to have to just skip on over to her wall and look at some past goodness.
I hope we find some good restrooms we can feature in our...
Maybe so. My goal, instead of scrolling this week, my goal is to find the best roadside attractions between here and Indiana. That's what we're going to do. We're going to find some good stuff. And we're going to bring some humor to your life.
And then we're excited because our book, Leading Ladies, Discover Your God-Grown Strategies for Success, is up for a second award, Golden Scroll Award. So that's going to be fun. We're going to be at that award ceremony. We're going to see all our friends. So it's going to be a lot of a friend reunion. But until next time, would you please go to wherever you get your podcast, subscribe to Coffee Chat with Amber and Lisa.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you on the road again. In a world that often tries to confine and categorize, best-selling book Leading Ladies, Discover Your God-Grown Strategy for Success celebrates the diverse tapestry of women just like you and their unique journeys of faith. Join Lisa and I as we partner with over 30 women from every hue, age, and walk of life, united by one mission: to let Christ shine through our gifts, wherever we are. Within the pages of Leading Ladies, you'll find a wealth of wisdom, inspiration, and practical guidance. These women share their personal stories, triumphs, failures, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Leading Ladies is more than just a book. It's a movement, a call to action for women of faith to rise up, support one another, and make a difference in the world. Together, let's celebrate the strength, resilience, and faith of leading ladies from every background and be inspired to let Christ shine through your gifts, wherever you may be. Leading Ladies, Discover Your God-Grown Strategy for Success. Available now wherever books are sold.